let me just give you a little bit of background about myself. I graduated from the University of Maryland, then I joined the United States Navy. Also, just to let you know, my grandfather was president of Haiti back in 1957. Yeah, so he took the country over in a coup. So don't mess with me, all right? And then I joined the Navy in 1990, about 300 carrier landings on the USS Independence, 100 of those at night. After I finished my time in the Navy, I joined the airlines. I've been at the airlines since 2000. But when I decided to promote this message, I put my career completely on hold, only in order to do this. About 8 years ago, somebody gave me a piece of information that I said it cannot be true, must be completely false. Thank you very much. And I did my research because I'm a curious guy, type A personality. I wanted to find out the truth. So I did the research and I found out what I thought to be false was completely true. And then I said to myself, wait a second. As Lieutenant Commander in the Navy, aircraft carrier pilot, thought I was somewhat educated, and this was basic of the most basic information. Hi Keith, how you doing? And I realized that if I don't know this information, then probably most of America doesn't know this information. So I tried to find out, is there more information out there? Is there more that I don't know? And it was unbelievable to me how much information has been kept away from us. Actually, we're dealing with information that's already been omitted out of the history books. We don't have that information in our purview. We don't have that information to be able to make proper decisions in society, in our society. And so today I want to expose to you a little bit of that. And it's an introductory presentation to that 3-hour seminar. I will share that with you today. It'll be shocking because it's shocking to me when I discover this information. It's kind of strange that we live in the United States of America and I'm giving you in 2011 new information about history. It doesn't sound right, does it? But you will be shocked today at how much information has been taken out of our history books. You see, there's two ways to bring about socialism in the United States of America. The first way is the way that they described it on the campaign trail in 2008, spreading the wealth. But the problem with spreading the wealth in the United States of America, that idea, is that today you can be dirt poor, tomorrow you can come up with the best widget in the world, and the next day you're off to being prosperous. That's the beauty of the United States of America. And it really doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. My wife was Mrs. Sweden, 1999. Yeah, she got lucky. No, and she told me this. She said, you know what you're doing here, going around and doing these presentations? She said, you can't do that in Sweden. The structure is so strict in Sweden that I couldn't do this in Sweden. Even if I knew the information in the history books were wrong, I could not go out and do this in Sweden. It doesn't exist. The second way they try to promote socialism or bring about socialism is through racial divide. It's by dividing us into different categories of races, agitating those races and then telling them that you need to find redress. You are owed something. And the way you find it is to go to the government and get it. And that builds up our entitlement programs to a point where it can't sustain themselves anymore, and then they fail. But there's one more concept I want you to understand before I get into this. Our system of free enterprise in America means that one individual can succeed or fail, but that doesn't have to affect another individual. The idea of socialism says this, that the system takes care of the individual. And if the system fails, all the individuals will fail with it. But how did we get here? Let's get into this presentation. This first chart that I have here, it's called a freedom or control chart. On the one side you have tyranny, on the other side you have anarchy. Everything that we do in government, everything that we do in politics is about two things, and it doesn't matter to me what you call it, liberal, conservative, Republican, or Democrat, it doesn't matter to me. It is only about two things, freedom and control. Freedom and control. Those are the only two things that we're talking about here. And I That's my X there. I'm right of center. I like a little bit of government to help protect my life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Other than that, I'm perfectly okay. I don't need the government to get involved in my life. You guys need to decide on this scale where your X would be. Do you want more government or less government? Are you in the center? And as I go through this presentation, and you take a look at the characters and the organizations in this presentation, figure out where they fall on this scale. If they fall right on top of you, you know who you should be aligned with. If they do not, then you know who you should be running from. I begin, by the way, if you want to understand the United States of America and relations, all relations, you have to go back to the 1600s. And I start with a story by a man by the name of John Caesar. John Caesar was an indentured servant. In the mid-1600s, he worked for a man by the name of Anthony Johnson. Indentured servitude means that you work for 2 to 7 years under contract, after which time you get a piece of land, you go work it on your own. You can be prosperous as you want to be. He worked for a man by the name of Anthony Johnson. And one day he got up and left and walked off. He said, I've done my service, I'm leaving. Anthony Johnson said, you can't leave. And Anthony Johnson said, I'm going to sue you. So he sued Perkins and Caesar in court and said, you need to come back and work for me. The court said, we believe Anthony Johnson. John Caesar, you need to go back and work for him for the rest of your life. And they made a slave out of John Caesar. The courts made a slave out of John Caesar. Would you guys like to meet Anthony Johnson? Anthony Johnson became the first official slave owner in the colonies. Has anybody ever heard that before?
No.
Is that strange?
Yes.
Raise your hand if you think that's strange. Everybody does, right? Guess what? It isn't. It isn't strange at all. The reason is because this is the mid-1600s. The color line had not been invented for another 40 or 50 years. In other words, Anthony Johnson and John Caesar didn't look at each other and say, I am owned by a black man and a black man owns me. Or I own a black man. They didn't see each other that way. Obviously, they came from the same nation, the African nation. But they didn't see each other as people of color. We do today because we have a few hundred years of doing it. But they did not because the color line had not existed yet. People of different colors owned all kinds of people of different colors all the way up until then. Also in the mid-1600s, the Irish always had problems with the British. Why? Anybody? Religion, exactly. Protestants and Catholics. And in the mid-1600s, there was another uprising, another rebellion in Ireland. And this gentleman, Oliver Cromwell, who became the first Lord and Protector of the British Commonwealth, went in there to quell one of those rebellions. And according to him, he did a fantastic job. He killed anywhere from 300,000 to 600,000 Irish. Home ownership for the Catholics went from 60% down to 8%. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the mid-1600s. It's a war. What do you get when you win a war? Spoils. What kind of spoils? Land, people. You get land and people and territory. And they got people. And they say they exported anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 Irish slaves into the West Indies, Montserrat and Barbados, and into the colony of Virginia. So now you've got African slaves and African servants, European servants and Irish slaves, all mixing together in the same general area. They're working together, they're playing together. If the Africans have converted, they're going to church together. What else do you think they do together?
Sleep together.
Of course. You see, they're the same class. The color line has not been invented yet. They are the same class of people. So they're all mixed in together. So the word mulatto, the mixing of black and white, the word mulatto comes out into society. That's going to be a very important word to remember as we move on. But sure, they mix freely. Not a problem. Color line has not been invented yet. Does anybody know this gentleman, Mateo Kebreau? Raise your hand if you know Mateo Kebreau. Mateo Kebreau, and by the way, you're not strange. I've done this presentation all over the country. Nobody has ever heard of Mateo Kebreau. I will explain to you why this is profound. Mateo Kebreau was a Marxist dictator of a country in Africa called Dahomey. In about 1979, 1980, he left that post, but in the early 1990s, he converted to Christianity. And in 1996, he was democratically elected president of the new country. They renamed the country called Benin, Africa. There's Benin, Africa. Now, in 1999, Mateo Kebreau, as president of Benin, Africa, came to the United States of America to do three things. The first thing is to apologize. The second is to seek forgiveness. And the third thing is to seek reconciliation for his country's participation in the African slave trade. Did anybody hear about that? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the head of state of an African nation who came to the United States of America to apologize for his country's export of 3 million of their own people in the African slave trade, and nobody in the United States of America has heard about it. How could that be? I'll make it even more profound. In 2003, he sent a delegation to tour the United States, churches and schools, to do the exact same thing, to apologize, seek forgiveness, and reconciliation for his country's participation in the African slave trade. This is what they said. In the name of the government of the people of Benin, on behalf of President Mateo Kebreau, I say to you all, we are sorry, we are deeply, deeply sorry. President Kebreau knows the damage on our side that came from slavery. He knows how this robbed our own society at home, how it turned us against each other, and we believe it is easy to say that those other people did it, but we also believe that if we were not helping them, if we did not assist them, if we did not play a role in it, it would not have happened. Do you think this might have some impact on race relations in the United States of America? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, slavery, race, racism, white guilt, political correctness has never been an issue of black versus white. It has always been an issue of good versus evil. It has always been an issue of good versus evil. The key is for us to come together on the side of good, not black versus white, to come together on the side of good so that we can collectively fight evil. These gentlemen came over here to seek that reconciliation so that they could better their own country. And the United States of America ignored them. The forces, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, are freedom versus control.